Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 66, the Mario. So this guest,
Mario.
This is perfect timing. I'm your host, Jeff Humphreys. Today's guest, this one is this show is totally dedicated to DJ Rice.
Amazing.
So, yeah, name and who you are, and away we go.
My name is Ryan Pinder. I'm a Calgary born and bred loudmouth that loves talking about sports and debating people and generally getting under people's skin, I suppose.
I assumed you were born and raised, but I didn't actually really think about it.
My dad was an investment banker in Toronto. My mom was a school teacher. My dad was from Saskatoon, youngest of four boys, and he moved out to Calgary with my mom when she was pregnant. So I was born here. And
Crazy.
are you born and raised?
Yeah.
There's a few of us.
Well,
there's not too many, but
no,
there's a few of us. The city would have been less than 500,000 probably in 1981 when I was spawned or whatever.
You're 81?
Yeah.
So I'm 77.
There you go.
So this will get interesting just because I had no idea. Because honestly, like, obviously I know the name and what you've been up to for a long time, but I've never really looked into your past or anything. So this is going to be a cool one for me to actually just ride along.
And you play pickup hockey with my cousins, so you've got a bit of the Pinder background,
totally.
some of it at least.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm excited. This is pretty cool that you're doing this. And our city's a great one that has lots of amazing people. And I think the cool part is there's a lot of overlap and interweave. You mentioned DJ Rice. I just feel like it's not so big that people don't know each other. It feels like everyone knows each other sometimes when you're here.
Do you think that's everybody in Calgary feels the same way, or do you think it's like?
I think it's just like certain communities. Like if you went to a certain high school and grew up in a certain neighborhood and hang out at certain places, like, gosh, I feel like you know everyone. But I can easily go to a different portion of the city and be like, I don't know where I am.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's probably most places on Earth. I just feel like whatever cross section of the city you're in, whether that's like I'm in design and art, I know that community, or I'm in the media and sports, but also grew up here, so I feel like I know that. And I got a lot of buddies in oil and gas; those guys all know each other. Like everyone's got their own little space they know. I don't feel like it's ever too big or overwhelming. But then I also didn't come from like a hamlet of 50 people in Saskatchewan.
Yes, I'm sure
it could be busy. I remember like Travis Hamonic would bring in kids from, because I think he's got First Nations background. He'd bring in kids from way up in Nunavut, and they'd take like 5 flights to get to Calgary. And Hamonic ended up being a polarizing player here, but like you always loved the charitable work you did. And like you'd hear the stories about some family from a tiny little village that took like a float plane to a small market to like a prop plane to PG, and then flew to Vancouver, and then Vancouver to Calgary. And you're like, whoa, man, like what are these people, their minds must be blown. And people that would be familiar with the charity would be like, they just sit and watch like sea trains and cars and office towers and just like,
blown away.
This is very different than where I'm from. So I'm sure Calgary can feel big, but
I don't know.
Not when you're from here, right?
Yeah, I think, and that's what I don't know. Is it being born and raised here? Do those like that 1 degree of separation? You and I are 1 degree.
Yeah, totally.
It's Tate to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's being born and raised in Calgary that creates more chances for that 1 degree, or if it's just to your point, you stick to your kind of circles and things get connected.
Well, I mean, geez, if knowing people is always a great thing. Relationships are amazing because we can share knowledge, and you know a person that can help me, and it's not a Calgary thing. It's everywhere. Like if you've got a lot of pals and your pals have a lot of pals, it feels like you're connected to a lot of people.
Yeah, makes sense. So what the gist of the show is, I like the guests to kind of tell their story.
Okay.
Yours would be really cool to hear your Calgary journey and then how you became the loudmouth at who you are today.
Yeah.
So kind of go back as far as you want to go. You know, where you grew up, how you grew up, inspiration, like all of it. So just go back.
So like I said, dad from Saskatoon, mom from Toronto, just pretty normal kid with really thick, weird hair.
Fucking
in elementary school.
Did you always have thick, like big hair?
Yeah, and it was just like, mom would always keep it at this weird short length where it was just like you couldn't do anything. It just kind of looked like a pelt, like something that would be sold by the Hudson Bay Company in the 1850s or something to help settle our country. Like, oh, this is muskrat, this is good stuff. But I think in junior high school, I finally let it go, like really let it go. And I actually shaved it really tight as well. And I actually was like, okay, this middle stuff is garbage. Like it's a buzz cut or like let it rock. So I would do one haircut a year. My grade 12 ID in high school was famously me with an NWO t-shirt and this massive like mushroom afro. And then I went from that I'd shave my head after that photo.
No way.
And a year later I'd have it back. So there's a lot of messy middle in there, but it was never boring. So I guess what would my story be? I always really had a fascination with sports because my family was always involved with sports. Like Tate, my cousin, was a great goalie. Like, not like epic, but like he had tryouts in the WHL and was playing junior A. And it was like, wow, that's my older cousin. And my uncle Jerry played for the Chicago Blackhawks, and I got to go down to the Dome as a kid with my dad and Jerry, his brother. They'd have season tickets, so I get dragged into a locker room. I actually met Mario Lemieux, believe it or not, episode 66.
Come on, dude.
I'm serious. So this would have been like early 90s Flames, where they're still really good, if not late 80s, like really good. And I remember the Flames had thumped the Penguins. I would have been somewhere between 6 and 8 years old, 6 and 9, around the age of my kids right now, actually.
Yep.
And I remember just like, first off, it's like, these are giant athletes, and I am completely like, don't say a damn word. Uncle Jerry knows everyone. And then you walk into this locker room and it's just like dudes with like showering and towels and like, just what the hell are we doing here? Like, this is such a foreign environment. I don't know what's going on. And my uncle, brought over Mario and shook hands, or, was there, that's Mario there. I can't remember because it'd be like 10 of these things when I was a kid that my uncle would drag me down to. But I do remember being in the Penguins room and it being like somber and like no one was saying peep because they just got pumped by the Flames. That's been a lot of that since Sid came in, and also when Mario was at his prime. So that was odd. But yeah, episode 66. So Mario ties in there, and I got to be around the sport just a bit because of my Uncle Jerry. Like when Bobby Hall would come to town, he'd come over and have wine at Uncle Jerry's house. He knew that I would really be into that, so he'd invite me over to say, hey, I know you're, Bobby's in town because Brett's here with the Blues. You want to come over and say hi? And I'm like, yeah.
Were you playing? Did you grow up playing?
Yeah, I grew up playing. I wasn't special. I really loved it. Hockey's such a great sport. I was at Elbow Park and then Glen Lake when I was older. And then I was tiny and not that good and very afraid for my life at times. My nickname was Midget in grade 10, and I'm like 6'1", 195. It was a cruel joke that the puberty gods played on me.
Yeah.
But I midget. I was like, this is enough. I'm not going to be any good, and I am afraid of getting hurt in this corner that I'm giving up 100 pounds and 6 inches to, right? Almost a foot, I suppose.
But the sport, there was something to it. Like you.
I just think it's the best. Like outdoor shinny, and hockey's such an elegant blend of like skill and power, right? Like skating itself is such an amazing, like just as a base movement is really hard. Like I love bringing people from other continents or that aren't from hockey cultures. Like my wife's Australian. Whenever we get her family or cousins, it's like always got to go to a game, and then like get them on skates too. Their appreciation for the athlete is like, whoa, because everyone can run.
Yeah.
Like very few people skate comfortably outside of this country and a few others, right?
Did you see that? And I never remember anything that I see online, but that JJ Watt thing talking to the.
We had him on the show. I wasn't on it at that point, but the morning show that I was a part of for, I want to say 8 of the last 9 years, or 7.5 of the last 9 years, we had our producer reach out to JJ Watt. He was tweeting about hockey one morning, and he just is like, hey, gets in the mentions, like, we're doing a sports show in Canada right now. Like, would you come on? And I wasn't on the show at the time, but paraphrasing it was like, sure, but like, let's not talk any football. And they're like, yeah, good. And so JJ called in, and he was at Wisconsin, which is a great hockey program. Like Commodore went there amongst some other really good players. They got a huge rink, I think like 15,000, one of the biggest rinks in college hockey, if not the biggest. And so he was like in the fabric of that hockey program. I just wish he played.
Imagine?
Oh man, you think Ovi's big? Like, Ovi ever forgets as a linebacker. He's like 6'3", 6'4", 240. Like
Killer.
That's insane. And JJ Watt, way bigger. Yeah. So anyway, like I love the sport. I always like my first spreadsheet's a hockey pool. I really love numbers. I got into stats. I really like that. And I always wanted to be a sports broadcaster. I just loved it.
Like early?
Yeah. Like probably if you asked me in grade 10 what I wanted to do, I would have said that for sure.
And was that just based on the passion for hockey? Was it Peter Marr? Was it like,
I think it was all the above. Like my family was very much into sports. It was the dialogue of what family get-togethers were about. We always talked about sports and
cousins, like everyone was playing, so it's just like this circle.
And like what I wanted to do, like I'd lay out that Wednesday morning paper, or Tuesday, whatever it was, with the huge league printout, and like pour over like alphabetical. Like there's Anaheim, okay, we got Timo up here, probably pre-Timo, and then like at the end is the W's, like Winnipeg if they haven't moved to.
I remember that
to Phoenix yet. Like that was the one day a week they printed out. I was like, yes, this is the day. was jacked for that. You'd update your hockey pool because then it wasn't a fantasy. You wouldn't change your roster. You'd pick and keep for the whole year.
Right.
So I always loved that. And then I didn't know how to get into it in the sense that like I had just okay grades in high school. Like I think I was a pretty sharp kid, but really immature and physically and probably maturity wise, like mentally, I suppose. Like I just paying attention.
Yeah.
Like I found I could be a class clown and get lots of laughs, and that changed a lot of things.
What high school are you at?
I graduated at Western, but I was at a private school for 5 years before that. I have a significant distaste for authority that really grew nicely over those 5 years, and finally threw my hands up. I was like, I'm going to Western. All my pals are there. It's the coolest school ever, and I'm sick of this shit. I want to go to Western, and all my best pals are there. So it was nice. It was like my social life in school finally.
Yep.
Those Venn diagrams the circles overlapped on the Venn diagram. It was good.
Western is like a melting pot. So I went to Mary's, and
Just down the street.
Yeah, so Western was a cool spot for hockey specifically because there's like heavy royals, but there's always some buffs that were there. Like it was just this interesting, lots of cowboy boots.
Yeah, people from all over the city, right? Because it would have all the unique programs. Like I think you could learn a bunch of different languages. You could take obviously first year university courses. There was like car auto work courses, so you could draw from all over the city because of just the unique courses. Western's phenomenal. Like I think that's like. What an amazing school to have.
Prime time.
It just happens to be right on 17th
Dude,
Ave.
like in the middle of it all.
We would race out of Mrs. Rule's calculus class, which was prime location to get to the 2-for-1 pizza. It was at that northwest exit of the school. So if you really had your bag packed on your shoulder, buzzer, bolt, cross 17th, down the alley, first in line, 250, 2 slices. Oh, what took you guys so long? It was the best. And then like all my friends were scattered around up on the hill in Mount Royal or down in Rideau, Elbow Park. And then you also had some kids that came from like less wealthy backgrounds, but were awesome, hilarious, amazing dudes. And house parties there were always different. So you had this really nice blend at Western of all kinds of different people. And really good athletes, really good students, people that were big in the arts, whatever.
Yeah, it's cool. It was a cool school, and Mary's being so close, you're just kind of you could kind of.
Well, Mary's tiny compared to it too, right?
Yeah. So you hear things, and I know all the hockey dudes over there, and so yeah, it's all connected. So grade 10, you could actually think about being a broadcaster?
Totally, yeah, because I knew I was going to be an athlete, which everyone wants to as a kid, but you also realize that it's like, okay, there's only so many people that get to do that, and it's clear pretty early who's very elite and who isn't, and simple math, like 1% of 1% of 1%, like, no, that ain't me. But I always loved talking about sports, and so I went to the U of L to do a management degree. It's kind of like, I need to do something. I don't have the marks or the resume to go to a Ryerson or Humber, and St. MR, I guess it would have been MRC back then.
Yeah.
Good programs, but it wasn't something that was on my radar because I wanted
broadcasting?
to go away for school. And I was like, okay, I'm not ready for that yet. I took a year off, traveled a bunch, worked construction, did the hard labor to remind myself why I had to work hard at university. I thought that was, in hindsight, savvy, whether my parents tricked me into doing it or I did that on my own decision making.
Big boy decision.
But like, go move a shovel at minus 20 in November for 10 hours. Yeah. That'll remind you that going to the library ain't so bad when you got an exam coming up.
Yep.
And so I did that the year before university. And while I was at the U of L, I spent like a ton of time at the radio station. I ended up sitting on the board. I would do one music show a week, a 2-hour sports talk show. And by the end of my 4 years at U of L, I was also calling the Pronghorns games on the radio from Nicholas Sharon Arena, the men's hockey team.
So you went all in on it.
Yeah. And it was like, once I'd figured out, okay, like I can handle the academics here. It was like, well, I got lots of free time. So I loaded all my classes up Monday to Thursday. I'd leave Fridays empty. And then I'd have a big Thursday night with my pals. I'd wake up Friday and I'd prep for my sports talk show, which would go like 1 to 3-ish or something like that. And so that was my ritual for basically years 2 through 4.
Wow.
And by the end of it, I had a music show as well, which was fun.
But we're going into that PS.
Yeah.
You're coming back to that.
Yeah. And it was on sitting on the board as we went through like an FM license, and you had to deal with like fundraising and like all kinds of crap like that. By the end of it, I was like, shit, like I got enough experience here where I can easily apply to all these programs that I didn't know how to get into. And like, it's not going to be a problem. And in the meantime, I was coming back in the summer and working at A Channel to do lights and mics, camera work, color controls on the Big Breakfast or Breakfast Television.
Yep.
So it would have been like Dave Kelly and Jeb Fink at the beginning, and then it was Tara McCool, and then it was Tara Sloan. Like you had that nice run of a decade there. Probably less than that actually when they all overlap. But I would go back every summer and work there and get some experience. Oh, I think
connected somehow.
Yeah, I think it was like one of my sister's friends' neighbors was the last name Craig, and it was Craig Broadcasting that owned 8 Channel. They eventually sold to Rogers, but somehow I got my foot in the door, which you know. Again, if in Calgary, if you know some people, it feels like you can always at least sit down with someone. I can make someone laugh. Okay, well, I'll probably smile and I'll work hard and we'll make it work.
Yep.
And so by the end of it all, I have 3 or 4 years of like really good media experience and sports broadcasting experience and some familiarity with TV and radio. And it was like, well, yeah, it's a no-brainer. So after my university degree, which you know, I didn't love the work necessarily, but it's like you're always going to work for a business or have your own business. So it doesn't hurt to understand business management, to be able to do your own taxes or, you know, understand investing. Those are all like good life skills to have. So whatever, didn't love it, but my passion was emptied out in that radio station while I was there.
So go back there. We're not going. We're not leaving that yet.
Music. So it'd be like down-tempo electronica, hip hop, a little bit of funk. So I'd be playing like Thievery Corporation, De La Soul, and like weird, like synthy.
What year is this ish?
99 to 2000 to 2004.
Okay.
So that was like just either chill tunes or like funky tunes.
And what time of day is this?
This would have been like midday, but it would bounce around. My sports show was always Friday. The other show I'd just fill holes, whatever.
And the music thing was just like a random passion interest, or where is it?
Well, I was definitely into music, and certainly like the more off the beaten path, the better.
Yep.
Like if it was popular or top 40, I almost hated it just out of spite. You're too popular. I need to like work harder and find more underground cool stuff. And the library at the radio station was like, oh my God, look at all this stuff.
Cool.
And then we had a really good music director, and you'd get I could read about all the stuff coming in every month. I got to hear this. I got to play one of these songs. And so I was like, music was here. Sports was the real passion, but I definitely got into some really cool music at university that I wouldn't have otherwise. And you're in Lethbridge, like culturally, this isn't a mecca. This isn't a place you go to find, you know, the next breakthrough Canadian band. So it was a way to, I guess, supplement what I thought was maybe just going from Calgary to Lethbridge. You're not going to find as much interesting music, arts, culture.
This is going to be, when you were in Calgary, 18, where were you going out to like find your?
Well, the moment I got fake ID.
2-piece or 1-piece?
One. As long as you know the birthday and which horoscope sign, you're usually pretty good. The picture was good too. My name was Joseph Gilad. I won't say the last name. My buddy's going to get totally busted. But the moment I got it, it was like grade 12, probably halfway through the year. It was about the same time that Pete and Mike, Small Town DJs, got their Thursday night weekly started, which was high karate at the Night Gallery. So that was like, nothing better than that. So Thursday would be meet up with buddies, go to the Night Gallery, and like dance. And it was like those stairs, low lit. I remember the bartender, she was incredible. She could take like 5 orders, 5 different bills, bring everyone perfect change and all the drinks. You're like, everything about this place is so magical. It's like a minor that's almost of age that is pretending to be of age. And the DJs were always great. And those guys, it's just, I love them because they're still doing it and still touring a ton. Like they opened for Mark Rebelay at that huge festival during Stampede this summer. And like I see Pete all the time. He's an absolute gem. I skate with him once a week, actually, in Small World. But like it was great music. It was funky. It was like move your butt and dance. Like it was always good
vibe.
People there. So that was like that was where I'd go.
Which was like right when they were building that was kind of one of the nights in the city. So to get your like musical knowledge in that environment, moved to LA. Like it's
Lethbridge over.
There's a missing.
No, totally. I'm like, there isn't a night here, but you know, you could.
Yeah.
There was like a Thursday at the campus bar that was good for a while there, and
But you knew what was cool. You know what you got introduced what cool music like could be, which is kind of Some people like they don't get to see that path, right? It's just like,
and so it was like I would always try to find what they were playing and go like explore that corner of the library at the radio station at university. Cool. So I'm done university. I know I want to be a sports broadcaster, and now I have like, okay, well, there's no excuses now. You've got all the experience. You can get into any program you want to. And so I graduate in spring of 2004. And I've lined up an internship at the Score for the summer, which back then was the independent TV sports station based out of, it was like the big I think it was the Sandman Hotel on King Street in Toronto. It's an unpaid internship, but my mom's sister lives in Toronto and she's got a basement and her daughter's out at McGill. So I'm going to stay in their basement. And then that was only 20 hours. They wouldn't do more because it's like free labor. And it's probably a little, internships are definitely an interesting conversation. So I got a paying job for the other 20, 25 hours a week at the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
So I got that job, which was great. I would watch grown men cry when they came in to see the Stanley Cup 5 days a week, 4 days a week. And then that was at Front Street and Queen? Yeah, no, not Queen. Front Street and Yonge. Thank you.
Yep.
And then it would be like down King West. It was, go in and Tim McAuliffe's there, Sid Sigsero's there, Adnan Virk, who's now MLB Network and has been ESPN. He's there. Greg Sansoni, who runs a lot of high up stuff at Sportsnet Television. Martin Geyer, who's still on the air. Cabby was kind of in and out just after finishing his internship. On and on and on. Like it was this incredible, like melting pot of like great talent, but not like the suits. They were the cool young sports station. Sportsnet was doing that. We're not going to do our ties up. Look how casual we are. That phase. Because TSN was good. Yep. Sportsnet was trying to find middle ground, and the Score was clearly the cool and up and coming broadcasters. Yep. And I was an intern, and it was not like it was neat to be beside all those people and meet those people and have some of those relationships.
You learn anything? Are you were you smart enough to sit back and listen and learn?
That's one of my challenges in life. I'm not really. I like talking, but yes,
a gifted
little
talker.
Bit. The challenge with the work was my job was like manually inputting the 2004, 2005 NHL schedule, which never was going to happen because it was the lockout. So I was there as the Flames lost to the Lightning in the final. Oh. I was in Calgary for the Detroit series. So for round one's Vancouver, I'm at university. Round two's Detroit. I get to the 3 games in Calgary. Then I'm off to Toronto. And so it's San Jose and Tampa rounds 3 and round 4 for that Flames run in 2004. And my job was to manually input into a spreadsheet day by day the NHL schedule that I know is going to get torn up because it's a lockout.
Crazy.
It was like,
crazy.
There's so many cool things I could do. And I wasn't quite confident enough or assertive enough to be like, hey, can we go do something fun like this? I was kind of always waiting for like someone to be like, hey, Ryan's this or that. Let's do something with him. And like in hindsight, I would have encouraged myself to like, tell people what you want to do. Like share some of your dreams. Get in front of a camera and don't piss down your leg. Although you probably have to do that a bit before you don't, I guess.
Do you think that if social was a bigger thing back then, that maybe would you have had the nuts to actually like build yourself into a personality on your own social? Maybe. And maybe they'd have been like, hey, this guy's got something.
I always felt like I've got a great social following, but it was because I had an area of expertise. And at that age, it's hard to have that at all. Yeah. Like I was a play-by-play guy for a team. So I did that for 7 years. We're almost there. But that was like where my following would be. It was like, I'm with the team. I have insights on the team.
You were at the Pronghorns for 7 years?
No. So I go to Toronto for that year.
Sorry, no, before I go there,
Okay,
I had this thought. Did you kind of hack the system? Instead of going to like a broadcast program and like, getting that check.
Really, it took longer,
but
it probably was more expensive. So no, I don't know if I hacked it, but
you got to a place
where I need to be
without a formal like broadcasting degree.
So when I go to Toronto after graduating for the summer, I do that. And then I take a little more time off and the next January, so I guess it's probably 9 months after I've graduated university, I enter at Humber College for postgraduate certificate in radio broadcasting. So this is just like round off some of the edges, get a little more formal training, learn how to edit audio and on computers and just a little more training because I knew I was comfortable on mic and could get my way around a studio, but if I had to make a commercial, okay, well, I don't know if I can do that. And just so a little more of that program. I got hired 6 months out of it to Fort St. John, BC. So I wasn't there long, but basically I had a nice, out of that year and a half, I had a lot of time in Toronto, which is really cool because that's the mecca for sports broadcasting in the country. It's the only place to do national shows out of. You've got, at that point, indie and 3 of the 4 major sports. All you're missing is a NFL team.
Yep.
And it's all the networks are based there. So even if you're trying to meet people that aren't in sports broadcasting, well, it's CTV, CBC, Global, like everyone's in Toronto. It is the media capital of the country. So to be there for a year and a half is really cool. And a lot of people that were graduates from my program or that would speak to us in class or that were your classmates. Like, it's just, you're there, you're in the Mecca, right? There's people making millions of dollars a year talking into a microphone in Toronto. That's the only place in the country at that time that was happening, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's Bob McCowan on afternoons and you're like, holy shit, like the dream's real here. Like, this is the market. So that was cool. And then I get hired out of there. I'm like, I had this one project that was pissing me off. And I'm like, this is so much going to work. I don't like it. I'm just going to get a job. And this job opening came up in Fort St. John, BC, which is just across the border into the BC side of like oil and gas Alberta. And it's oil and gas BC. It's the Peace region. And it was sports director, afternoon show host, play-by-play hockey. And I'm like, this is perfect.
What league?
There was two. There was a junior B team in the NWJHL, and then there was a senior AAA hockey team. So they would, the years I was there, they were AAA. That's the distinction of highest level. So if you could win all of BC, you'd qualify to the BC Alberta playoff. The winner of that would go to the Allen Cup.
Okay.
And so for 13 months minus a day, I lived in Fort St. John, BC, and worked for Moose FM.
Did you graduate school, or you just like?
No, I was just gone.
That project you just bounced?
Yes, I was like, I'm not doing this fucking project. And I got the job offer, and my teacher's like, well, you got to take this. It's great. I'm like, yep. See ya. Best of luck. And that was kind of the point of the program. Like, you already had a degree.
Right.
They didn't teach you how to write. You didn't have to go through no, you're a student now. You got to work hard. Like, you have a degree. Let's get you to figure out some of the X's and O's of how all these things work in radio, and then let's get you hired somewhere. So, I went from living in a basement of a house full of students in the student annex just off Bathurst and Bloor, where within 5 blocks, there's probably like 20, 25 countries represented by like restaurants.
Bathurst and Bloor.
Yeah. Like
how close is that? How close was that to the Madison Ave pub?
Not super.
Was it?
I mean, I feel like the Maddie was probably 10 to 20 blocks.
Okay.
Would it be toward east maybe?
Yeah.
But that's where I was when the Flames lost Game 7 to Tampa.
I lived on Bloor. I lived on Madison Ave, like 4
there
blocks
you go.
away from the pub.
Yeah. What was your closest subway station?
Bloor and Spadina.
Yeah. Okay. So Spadina. I was Bloor Bathurst. Okay. Yeah, that's close. Crazy.
So you're at Fort St. John.
So I'm in Fort St. John, and it's
Play-by-play for both teams.
Yeah, and I'm like, I come from Toronto where I'm like seeing these incredible hip hop acts, and there's like amazing hidden festivals in these parks.
You're still on the music thing? Like music is still...
well, I'm social. I'm 25 or whatever.
Okay.
Like, of course. Like,
Yeah, but you had the choice, right?
No, I'm not trying to make music anything, but just it's part of my social life. And
But you're not going to like top 40 joints. You're actually
No.
you're looking for cool music.
I remember one of the guys I was living with was huge in the techno scene. I was never really big into techno, but they threw fucking epic parties. So they had this like map, and it was like you had to get off at this bus station on this weird route in this industrial part of town. You had to like follow these train tracks for a half kilometer, and then it was a City of Toronto recycling facility, and they'd crack the garage door. This is where all those huge trucks that have recyclables would like dump in like orange juice cans and empties, and you'd wade through like knee to waist high bottles and cans and get to this ladder and climb 2 stories up. And they had like it was a warehouse with a top floor and windows overlooking like downtown Toronto. And it was like a rave all night. It was fucking epic.
Crazy.
And it wasn't my music, but it was like, this is a party. Like,
Yeah.
You're not going to like BP's ordering a team pitcher after that thinking it's a night out. Like, I seen some shit in that warehouse. So I love Toronto, but I go from this incredibly multicultural city where I'm super social. I'm out all the time. I never eat at home. There's restaurants from all over the world. I've got friends of every shape, size, color, ethnicity, religious background. It feels like you're in the middle of the world when you're in Toronto. It's really amazing. It's a special
You liked
place.
it there.
Oh yeah. I mean, living there with a family would be different. But
I hated it.
how old were you?
This was 2001.
Okay.
So I was like early 20s.
And you were single and you didn't like it there?
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
I
wow.
made $36,000 a year.
That's not a lot.
Lived on that Madison Ave.
Yeah.
In the 1-bedroom basement of the student housing complex.
Yeah, I had a similar setup.
It was like $900 a month.
Yeah, I was 600. My door didn't have a handle. It just pushed.
Dude.
It was like, whatever. I'm not here anyway. I'm here to like pass out, wake up in the morning and go again.
Yeah, and I'm not. So I'm like an introvert by trade.
Okay, see, I'm the opposite.
Yeah. So you're just like you were vibrating
Every time I was like, every weekend, it'd be like someone else I didn't know was crashed on a couch. I'm like, hey, whose pal are you? I was like, that one. Like, okay, yeah, you're pals with somebody and you're here from somewhere for some concert. Cool.
Sure.
I'm Ryan. Let me know if you need anything. And so I go from there to Fort St. John, where I'm like, it's just dirt roads and big trucks with weird machines on the back. Diesels are running all night through the winter so that they don't not start when they need to be working in the morning. And dudes dropping out of high school to work in the oil patch because they're like dangling $100K and I'm making 28 grand at Moose FM. I'm like, what have I done? Like, this is supposed to be the dream? Holy fuck. And like, try to relate to someone. We're like, hey, have you ever seen Talib Kweli in concert? Like, who? And like, it's a fancy night out if you're at BP's.
I love how it always goes to BP.
And like, it was, because it was just like, that's what it was up there. But the saving grace was that the senior AAA team was a lot of guys my age that had come back from collegiate programs, Western Hockey League,
just good hockey,
semi-pro, really good. Like, and what they were doing is they're trying to get in the oil patch, and a company would hire them and say, but you got to go do a couple of years in Fort St. John and play on the team. Right. So it was a really good team. And those guys were a little more traveled and had seen some more of the world. And, you know, their bubble extended beyond the Peace region and the 3 strip clubs with 15,000 people. How's that fucking math work?
Know your audience.
Condil is not a steakhouse. Do not be fooled. The Condil restaurant is not a restaurant. It's got drywall with a hole in it, and they've got the boards for the ceiling boards pushed up on the stage because it wasn't high enough of a room, just around the pole. Jesus. 13 months minus a day. Loved it. Got to touch everything. It's like 6-7 people at the radio station, so you got your hands on everything. I did like a remote from a furniture store on Christmas Day one year. Like just
all of it.
Speed skating was big up there because they had some good speed skaters. I think Denny Morrison, the Olympian, was from up there. It was a great experience. I was probably a little lonelier than I wanted to be. It was not the social life I had in Toronto. But from there, I went to Penticton. One of the guys at the station in Fort St. John, his dad was the second in command of the BCHL. Okay. Like, not the commissioner, but whatever second.
Deputy,
vice commissioner? I don't know. He was the Bill Daly of the BCHL.
Sounds like a deputy job.
He was John Grisdale's right-hand man, as over 100 people might even know. And he got word that there was an opening in Penticton, my buddy. And he's like, you got to apply for this. I'm like, yes, I do. And so luckily I got down there for an interview, got my name in the hat before they even posted the job. I said, hey, I heard there's an opening. And they're like, oh, really? Where'd you hear that? I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. When can we talk? And so Penticton was phenomenal. It was the old Memorial Arena there. It's like one of those old barns.
I got a story for you.
1,800 seats, and if you count people hanging off the rafters in the 40s and 50s, maybe it's over 2,000. And the Penticton Knights and Panthers and V's were an institution there. And for 4 years, I really got to work on my play-by-play trade, and then started picking up like the communications, PR, and social media blogging side of I guess the media world. It was an amazing 4 years.
What was the job that they gave you? Was it just
play-by-play? Just for year one. Yep. I think I got $500 a game, and then I was bartending at Larry Lund, former WHA stars bar, the Barley Mill, and it was like, the guy I bartended with was one of the top Elvis impersonators in the continent. So not soon after that, because we did karaoke once a week, and he'd only do Elvis songs. He got good. He literally toured for a couple of years.
No way.
Yeah. And then year two, it was like, okay, like we moved into the new rink that hosts the Prospects tournament at the beginning of the NHL season. The Canucks host that. Edmonton comes, Calgary comes, Winnipeg often. Yep. And we held, because of the facility, like a 5,200 seat junior A building, like nicest in the country by a mile. We got to host like World Junior A Challenge. So
that was the new one, right? That's the new building, right?
Yeah, the SOEC, South Okanagan Event Center. And so I got to see 1 year in the old rink. The team won the league that year. Ron Hextall's kid was on the team. Okay. Zach Delpy, who's still in the Panther system, was on the team. Jim Nill's kid was on the team. We had a lot of really good hockey players and big personalities. It was the coach's first year. And by the end of the 4 years, I was doing a weekly TV show in a bar with season ticket holders where I'd interview the coach.
Cool.
It's like our own little coach's
like a local cable thing kind of?
No, we put it up on the internet. It was actually pretty cutting edge at the time. There was a guy that was really big into video and film and had a pretty powerful computer, and he did a lot of the production because he was a super passionate guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like way ahead of times.
Yeah. And then I would host a Monday weekly V's show. I would sell and produce all the ads and inventory, and I bought the airtime from the station. So I was like a one-man media wing for the company. I'd write a check for like X thousands of dollars, and Sun FM would give me certain numbers of hours. It wasn't Sun, it was the AM equivalent, Easy Rock. So that would be all our games, and I would literally go out and sell who's going to sponsor the penalty kill, and who's going to be our first intermission guest sponsor.
No way.
And our matchup of the night. And so you get to meet all the people in town, all the movers and shakers, and became really close with the head coach and GM, Fred Harbinson there, a Calgary guy, believe it or not.
Freddie, does he have two boys?
He's got a boy and a girl. So no.
Okay. Because I know Fred Harbison too, but he's got two boys.
Yeah, and so he's still running the program out there. I always say it's the best in junior A in the country because it is. It's phenomenal. They'll get 15, 20 kids to college every year, and learned a lot about the sport there. Got really involved on, how a junior hockey business operates because there was only a few of us in the building, and after 4 years, I was kind of like, wow, like I've done everything I can do here. Like I'm not going to do 2 TV shows or 2 radio shows or write more press releases or start a second blog or like I feel like I've mastered this job.
Yep.
And I love it here, but if I want to get where I want to go, which at that point was to be an NHL play-by-play guy, like I need to leave here.
Did you, when you, like those 4 years, did you build out kind of the plan? Did you know that you needed to launch a blog? Did you know that doing your own kind of TV show thing? Or were you kind of like...
It all kind of just happened. And like, I don't know that I knew, but I certainly knew it wasn't a bad idea.
Yep.
And that like, if it was done right, it could work. But we just kept adding another sort of like, a quiver into the...
Yeah.
Bad analogy there somewhere.
No,
but no, it was another tool in the toolkit, and it was another, I guess, prong to that media wing of the team, which was a really good team, and got great fan support from that, older but like diehard hockey fan base there. Like Penticton's young and fun, and beaches and families in the summer, and it's a bunch of blue hairs that are sipping coffee, bitching about the power play in the winter. It's retirement community, right?
It's a good spot.
Anyone young and interesting is like off to college or university in Kelowna or Vancouver. Like, get out of here.
And you knew, even your time while you were there, you knew like NHL play-by-play.
Well, I wanted to. I mean, was that the dream?
Was that the goal from when? I
don't know. I feel like if you'd told me I could do a highlight show or be a play-by-play guy in the NHL, those would have been like, oh, please. Yeah, that'd be amazing. And that would have been back to like high school, junior high school for sure.
Either one of those would have been check.
Because that's the pinnacle of sports broadcasting for me at that point. And so by virtue of telling the Visa I wasn't going to come back for a 5th year, which is like, oof, I'm putting myself out there. Now I'm volunteering to host anything. I'm writing for all these different publications. I will cover this event for you, NHL.com. You don't have someone here, which is that prospect tournament. My buddy Aaron Welber starts a website called thecoachessite.com, and he's going to have his first coaching conference where you bring in high-end hockey coaches to talk to people that coach at lower levels, whether that's someone in minor hockey, whether that's like AAA coaches at the Bantam Midget, or whether it's Junior B, Junior A collegiate coaches coming in from Canada and the U.S. And that first year, Ryan Walter happens to speak at the event, the former NHLer, and his play-by-play guy just leaves, and I'm emceeing. And it's just like, oh my God, like if I don't leave the Visa, I might not MC that event. And if I don't MC that event, there's no way I get that job. And suddenly I go from BCHL, Junior A, skip over the Western League on the whole hierarchy of leagues, and I'm working in the American Hockey League for the Flames farm team, no less. And I moved from Penticton to Abbotsford. And so I was 2 years in Abbotsford. This is Sven Berchi, Lance Boma, TJ Brody, like that era of Flames prospects. Leland Irving's in net. Danny Taylor's there a year. Legend Barry Brust was there for a year. And the lockout happens to flop in one of the years, the first 48 games there. And the radio station Calgary wants to have me on all the time because there's no NHL, but the American League's still playing. And because there's no NHL, anyone at entry level has been sent to Abbotsford. And Bob Hartley's in the stands overlooking things. And, Jay Feaster's overseeing stuff because he's got nothing to do. There's no NHL season. You may as well watch the kids.
Yeah.
And so I sort of began to get a little bit of a profile on 960, the sports radio station in town. And sure enough, when things end in Abbotsford, I've been doing summer fill-in for a few weeks here or there that they're paying me for because I'm not doing anything in the summer. That's the heat. They're not doing anything. So I'll take a couple of weeks, come back to Calgary, do some shows, get paid. And then Andrew Walker leaves, who was a third wheel on the morning show for a few years. he got a job offer in Toronto. Rogers matched it, moved him to Toronto, and there's an opening on the morning show as I'm doing a summer of fill-in, and things have just ended in Abbotsford because that was like the Titanic. We all knew it wasn't going to work. A Flames-colored team in Greater Vancouver.
Right.
Weird they couldn't draw. If only we had bigger egos, it could have worked better. So yeah, and then that's where that brings us to Calgary. After being away for 7 years chasing this broadcasting dream, I'm back home in Calgary, and I've got all my old pals from high school, but now I've also got my pals from university that came back from Lethbridge to Calgary that I never lived in Calgary. I'd see them only in the summer, and so I just felt so lucky and really proud to be back in a major market. It felt like I'd gotten to a level that I always wondered if I could and was hopeful I could. And not only that, I get dropped into a morning show with Rhett Warner and Boomer, Dean Mulberg, who, there was a lot of friction early, but it was very well listened to and a popular program. And I feel like 3 years in, we really hit stride, and it's really the rest of my life since then has been spun off of the success of that program.
Did you, in your wildest dreams, could you have imagined that, like, hitting the pinnacle in your hometown?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was doing play-by-play for the Abbotsford Heat, the pinnacle was going to be doing the Flames games on the radio.
Gotcha.
But I feel like me and that job, it could only happen one way. And it wasn't after you gave me let's have lots of opinions, be a sports personality on a sports talk station. Because I'm not going to, this guy's great and they're all trying hard and, let's give it the college try. This guy sucked. There's problems here. That's a bad trade. That's like in sports talk, like you best have some opinions.
Yeah.
And when the team sucks, the team doesn't really like your opinions because you're probably telling the team that they're not run that well or they're not organized or this is a problem here. Why are you losing so much? If I had stayed in the play-by-play path, I believe I could have done that job and I might have been a strong applicant. I don't know that they want someone that has been stirring up hornets' nests for interesting conversation for 3-4 years. And so when I took the job at 960, Peter Marr was there. But a couple of years later, I guess, he retires. And it was like, oof, I don't know. My boss didn't even consider it, and he picked it. I'm like, okay. But, I mean, like that's... A play-by-play guy is not there to opine and ask questions about what's right and wrong.
Yep.
The play-by-play guy's job is to describe what's happening on the ice, and the color guy can add in a little more color as to, here's when you mentioned the corner, look at this here.
Yep.
It's not an opinion job. Sports talk radio is entirely an opinion job. So it was like once I got really into that and be like, okay, this opinion is not going to be popular, but I know it's right. I've got good sources, and like the team's not going to like this, but our audience deserves it. Once you get into that school of what work is, you can't go back to being like house media type play-by-play guy stuff.
To do it at a high level, what does it actually look like to be that connected to the game? Whether it's like research, whether it's watching a crazy amount of hockey, whether it's like building relationships with people that you can trust when they tell you things, like that body of work. People from the outside look at somebody that has a show. Yeah. The show could be from 9 till 10:30, once a day for 5 days a week. Yeah. And they're like, this guy works fucking an hour and a half a day. But what is it actually, the amount of knowledge that you have to build in your head to actually have an opinion?
There isn't one thing and one way to do it. But I would say any broadcaster has to find their voice, which is to say, what do you talk about that you have great expertise in or are extremely knowledgeable in that area? Like, I'm not going to break down a zone exit on, the second period shift. But some people can do that, and that can be their shtick, and that is some people's shtick. But because I worked in Abbotsford, the Flames farm team, like, I have good sources in that team. I was employed by the team owned by the Calgary Flames. So if there's something stinky going on in the organization, I've got a lot of people that I can go into my phone and text and say, like, what are you hearing on this? But I'm not an insider. Like Elliot Friedman doesn't need to break down a shift. He can just text GMs, and he's built that. But I think what it was is I'm on a show with two other really strong personalities. I don't need to come in and tell Rhett how a defenseman played a 2-on-1 wrong.
Yeah, you're smart enough to like stay out of that.
Eventually I got smart enough for that, I hope. But I mean, we're not lacking confidence in being right often. Right. Remember Loudmouth Know-It-All? Like, did I say that? But no, like, I'm with a former player, and I'm with a guy that watches all the games and doesn't really have a huge interest in looking at data. He wants to just react to what he sees, which is great. And so those are two angles at it. What can I bring to this show that's different from those two? So I got really into like following people that are deep into data and analytics, and started reading stuff that was off the beaten path for fans, but not for like what was happening behind the scenes in organizations. Like in the last 15 years, scouting staffs haven't got much bigger or smaller. It's kind of like you have scouts. Where the game has changed on the hockey ops side more than anything is the incorporation of analytics, stats, data. Like they now have every player being tracked where they move on the ice with a chip in their jersey. Like you have 10,000 pieces of data a game that someone has to sift through and figure out what this means and how it works. And I'm not that guy, but I was just, in the age of social media, you could follow really smart people on Twitter that had great insights and go to websites that were free that had a lot of really good information. And so if someone comes in and says, Michael Backlund's playing like shit, he's no good, I'd say, well, hang on. Like when he's on the ice, the Flames are outchancing their opponents and he's only shooting 6% and his career average is 11. Like you're looking at a guy that's not got puck luck and that you're looking at results, not process. And people don't like hearing that, but it was a nice third leg of the stool for the show. You had the former player, you had the guy that watches every game and is like, here's what I'm seeing. And I would sort of say, well, of course you don't like him. Like he's only scored 3 times on his last 100 shots. That's like, that would be half of his worst year shooting in the league. You know he's due for some bounces. And it also created great debate on the show. And it was sort of the debate surrounding the sport as well. Like,
it was new-ish, right? Like to that thought process, and I think when it really popped off was when they hired Buddy in Toronto. Like
Dubas,
that was kind of
came to the forefront. He also wasn't like just a straight data guy. Like he was a GM in the OHL. He was
sold that way though, right? Like he was a young data guy.
And I think because he was a good GM and was fluent in data or analytics or whatever you want to say, Brendan Shanahan was like, I have to hire this guy because if I don't, someone else will. And it was like him and Lou Lamoriello were in the organization at the same time, a little power struggle there. And then it was like, trying to remember what the guys that owned the London Knights. Mark Hunter was in the organization as well. And so you had some old school guys and Kyle Dubas, and who won the power struggle to be GM. Well, look, you don't have to like watch the game and say like, I saw the game, I know everything. You can also go to people that like bet against Vegas for a living and beat them and say, what does their model say? And that sounds really weird, but like for the last 5 years, there are people that can bet and beat Vegas at hockey. If you've ever tried it, it's almost impossible. I don't think GMs could beat Vegas at it, but I know some nerds with some great computer models can. And so if I shade my opinions toward those guys, I'm probably going to look smart more often than just going with the gut or what every common fan sees on their TV screen.
And you're comfortable, like, I've listened to the show a couple times since you started a new one, which we'll get to, by the way. But you do speak with data behind you. How quick are you to either research it, find it, and then keep it top of mind, and then bring it up in a conversation? Like, is it a natural flow for you?
It can be. Like if they say, I shouldn't say they, like if someone's like, geez, like, man, Andrew Mangiapane's struggling, he's not scoring. Like, I'm gonna go look at his shooting percentage. And that's not like, whoa.
No, but like, but your Backlund example is different.
Yeah, well, we had a great debate on the show, and it was like, that was back when it was pretty heated, and Boom and I weren't getting along, and I think he's going through some heavy shit. And I'd only done broadcasts where I was the main guy and I'd bring in a color person and it rotated. I wasn't used to sharing this space.
Yep.
And I still like interrupting a lot, finishing people's sentences and such.
But you can see how quick your hands, you're like,
well, that's what it is, right? I mean, like, I know I can fix this for you. I can help you. You're looking for a word. I got it. But that was the debate. He was like, okay, so you hate this guy so much. Like, he sucks. Backlund's brutal. Like, where is he in 5 years? And Boom's like, oh, he's going to be in the KHL. I'm like, I think he's going to get Selke votes. And it was like, there couldn't have been wider goalposts. And like, he ended up finishing 4th in Selke voting 1 year, 5th or whatever. He's not in the KHL. And Boomer's come around on him. But to the former player and the eyeball test guy, he was no good.
Yep.
The data suggested before any eyeball test that, hang on, you might not like what you're seeing on this. You might think he's soft because he has a broken pinky. If it was a forefinger, you might not feel the same way. Like, it's narrative street here. But like, when he was on the ice, there was really positive things happening in terms of where shots were taking place from. They were further away from the Flames net, or there was just a lot more on the other end. So you might, he doesn't dive and make spectacular play, but he's in the right spot and there's not a pass there. Like, it's just a play dies. Yeah. You don't get credit for that. Whereas like Chris Russell's diving all over and sliding. You're like, look how hard he's trying. It's like, well, if he was in position, he wouldn't have to dive so much.
It's almost like a refined perspective on the sport to understand that the gut intuition thing to look and like make judgment, like Chris Russell sliding all over, trying hard.
Yeah. To have and he does try hard and he's got a heart of a lion, but like, results are what matters.
That extra piece is a different twist.
Yeah. And so that was kind of how I found a voice on that show. But you asked like, what's the pinnacle or like, how do you, like, I just had to find a place on that show that worked. And to be fair, like I didn't feel like the show was working for me for a while.
It's hard. Like
I was living in my sister's basement getting berated by my co-host because he didn't like my opinions. And like, I probably interrupted him too much.
But it's, from the outside, somebody looking at a story like yours, climbing, getting to a spot where there's a lot of people that want to get there. It's like whatever the percentage is, you rattle off the hockey guy, it's like 1% of one, so to get to where you're at is a high level. From the outside, everyone's like, fuck, he made it. But behind the scenes, what's actually happening is like...
I had to find a fit or I was off that show. And I don't know, my boss at the time, Kelly Kirscher, always believed that I was like really built for sports talk, but it took me a while to really nail it. Like I could do the work and do the interviews, but just to fit in on that show especially was tough.
Years, seasons? Like how long did it take you to find your groove?
Oh, so I started on that morning show the fall of 2013. So that's 10 years ago. Wow. Coming up here. I started on that morning show.
Crazy.
And I would say we probably moved downtown within the first 3 years. And I felt like when we got into that new building downtown out of the Northeast that the show was rolling. And not that there wasn't friction, like the friction's a really important foundational piece to our show. That's why it's good.
But delicate, right? Like there's a fine line. Like
it's just respect too, right?
Like you know how far to go?
Or it's just like everyone's going to take it in the teeth, not just one guy.
Right.
And also just to understand how to play into other people's strengths. Like if I know, like why would I opine about how a player feels in a locker room or what's going on in the Flames room when I can just ask a guy that played for this coach?
Yeah.
That's a really nice partner to have when Daryl Sutter's coaching the team. And, Boomer's got a resume that involves covering this team and other teams, and he's covered a lot of junior hockey. Like you can pick his brain. It's like you got to, or that he's got a hilarious angle on something. Like play into your co-host's strengths, right?
What is that maturity that allows you to think like that? Or experience?
I mean, I guess if banging your head against the wall so often that like you got a sore head, you got to start figuring it out. It's not insanity, is what it is. Stop doing what's not working. And I think he came around to me. I think the best thing that happened for our relationship was me leaving that show for a year and a half.
Yep.
I went to afternoons to work with Pat Steinberg, and now Dean had to work with someone else in my chair. And I think what he may have taken for granted when I was there was suddenly very apparent. Like I can't just turn to someone and expect them to be able to carry on like whatever topic I throw.
Yep.
And like maybe I'm pulling something out of my ass on, the left tackle for the Giants, but like I could fill some time and I can also fuck around and tell jokes, or not tell jokes, but like play along
just be
in a comedic setting and not get in the way, hopefully. And when that was gone, it was like, shit. Like all of a sudden there's multiple guys running through that chair, and then the pandemic hits and there's no sports. And that was like the call. I was like, okay, you're going back to mornings. Like I'm just getting comfortable, like with my new life expectancy of not waking up at 4 a.m. and dying when I'm young, and you're going to move me back to mornings. Fuck. And we're doing like candy brackets, chip brackets, like the dumbest shit to fill time because there's no pro sports for like 6 months there.
And what is that? I forget. I'm sure other people forget too, right? The pandemic was a real thing for a lot of people.
We had a big client trip for Follow the Flames to Miami late Feb. And then we came back for a week, and we had some people, 2020, that got sick and for sure had COVID in hindsight. But at the time, we're like, wow, like 2 weeks away from work. Like, that's a bad hangover. Come on, guys. Like, pull up your socks.
Shake it.
And like, yeah, you throttled it in Miami. Good work. But like, you got to show your face at work, don't you? You're not going next year. And so it was like, fuck. Then the pandemic, like things are getting weird. You're seeing the news, like stuff's happening in China. And I was down in Dunedin like 10 days later covering Blue Jays spring training. And I remember being in a club on like the 7th or 8th floor of a condo tower in Clearwater Beach, which is the head of the Scientology religion, by the way, and a beautiful beach. And it's like overlooking the water, and there's boats everywhere. And it was a March Madness tournament game. Like the winner of this game was going to the tournament, and the loser wasn't. So it was like we're kind of getting into that time of the calendar sports-wise. And there's this ticker on the bottom, like there is on every sports channel. It was the NBA's canceled games tonight. And that was when it was like,
okay.
Oh, fuck. We're in Florida. And WestJet was running this trip through the radio station. And luckily, I'm down there with some WestJet people that are schmoozing high-end clients and running the contesting. And it was like 8 hours for a normal human to call and try to move their flight. I don't have 8 hours to move my flight to get home, but the WestJet staff had all of us and was like, well, let's move everything up 24 hours. And somehow they got that done. And we got in like minutes before the mandatory 14-day quarantine coming into the country.
Crazy.
Like I probably landed somewhere between 10 and midnight. Midnight's the cutoff for 14-day quarantine. So that was when that was. And it wasn't soon after that I was moved from afternoons back to mornings.
And then no sports, like.
Yeah, so we were just doing anything to fill time. I don't even know. I would start, like I was doing a Pinder report, which is like a everyday, the news of the sporting world, but try to do something funny or dumb or have a hilarious sound clip or a callback to a Will Ferrell quote from a movie. Anything to make you laugh while delivering the news, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden there's no sports. So it would be like, okay, this day in Flames history, which alumni's birthday? Oh, it's this guy and he fought his brother once. We got to play that. Where's that? Go to YouTube, find that fight. Anything to try to fill out because there was no sports to react to. And then even it was like, there was a golf event and you're like, whoa, like, oh, the Bundesliga started. Yes, German soccer. And then it comes on. Oh, fuck, I never watched the Bundesliga because I don't care about the Bundesliga. Fuck. Right? And then by the summer, like you're starting to get some stuff going. And then it was like the bubble playoffs in Edmonton and Toronto. Right. Yeah, so it was
different.
Early on in the no sports that I got asked to come back to mornings. And that was the last 2 years at the station, I guess. And that was when Boom and I were probably at our best. And Rhett had taken a year away and then came back and joined us for, I think, the last 2 years.
So the new show.
Yes, Barn Burner.
Yeah, so... Get into it a little. I'm curious to see what you think. You know, working at that level for a big shop, and now doing this, and what that feels like, and yeah, if your energy is, if there's newfound excitement, does it take you back to when you're starting? Like, I'm kind of curious to see what you're thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'd say, like it's like not like a nervous energy, like oh, I'm in a big market, here we go. But it's just like, yeah, I'm not waking up at 4. And we do whatever the hell we want. We've got a really, really great loyal following for whatever reason, however dumb the show is, that we're talking about food and, you know, like whose farts are ruining the studio that day. Like it really was just locker room show with some sports. But for whatever reason, that resonated really well in the community. And when we decided to do this, we're like, okay, like, our guys are going to come with us. Like the guys that love our show and listen to our show for 10 years, the guys that were texting us the callback jokes from 8 years earlier.
You feel that? Do you feel the volume increasing as you do your show for a lot of years?
Yeah.
You know, you do have a lot of inputs saying people are into this. And
we had a text line at the station, which was huge. You could gauge interest at all times. Gotcha. And like, not good. It's like, if you like the show and you're happy, you're not texting it.
Yeah.
If you think Pinder fucking sucks and that was the dumbest thing he's ever heard and like, go get another job, you loser, you send that in.
Yeah.
So, you know, you get a little thick skin on the old text line, but it was constant feedback.
Yep.
And, you know, we started putting all of our shows online like every radio station now does. And, you know, there was an understanding, I think, that we had like a really good following and that if we were, you know, when we started this in the fall, that I think we could bring a lot of those people with us. Not because they didn't like something else, but because they loved our show.
Yep.
And we didn't really have to establish, okay, here's who we are and here's what the show is going to sound like. It was the show. But it was the show with cameras. It was the show in a studio. It was the show uncensored.
Yep.
Not that we were really towing a corporate line. Like we were in the bag rather often, and everyone in the building knew and was okay with it because it was funny. Like Rhett's birthday, there's a bottle of whiskey, let's do a show. And that probably, you know, wouldn't have flown over at corporate headquarters, but the people that wanted ratings for the show at the station understood it and loved it.
We're fine.
And like, oh shoot, you got really big numbers and it was a funny show, right?
And
so when you're in this space now, it's like, you know what we should do? Boom said it one day. He's like, I think I saw someone like, he knew who it was. It was like one of the late night hosts, I think, or a comedian of sorts, and they just got bombed with Lizzo one day and filmed it. And he's like, this is unbelievable. He's like laughing at his workstation. I'm doing this, trying to get ready for the show. I'm like, what are you watching? Like, he's got his headphones on. He's dying. I'm like, what the hell's going on over there? Like, he's losing his mind, laughing. And he tells me what it is. And he's like, I think we should do a drinking show for Christmas. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm in. Okay. I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, I think we should do it. I'm like, cool. And I just started writing down an order of drinks. And I'm like, I don't know how many. The show's like an hour and a half. But I just started. I'm like, okay, coffee Bailey's is a start for sure. Then we're going to do mimosa. It's a holiday show. We probably have to mix in like eggnog somewhere. So we could do eggnog and rum third. Still kind of like early day drinking. Like, let's get a Paloma in, Caesar, light beer, rosé. We swapped that out. Holiday punch, Moscow Mule. And so we literally, on the 22nd of December, turned on the show and hammered 10 drinks in 2 hours. And it was like, it was sloppy at the end. And I was hungover at dinner time, it felt like. And it's not like, hey, kids, grow up and do this. But fuck, was it funny? And like, you wouldn't have a tough time guessing what our most popular show we've ever done is in 4 months. But like, that wasn't even on the table at the old place. Like, you could just, we can do whatever we want. It's not like, ooh, yay, we're drinking. Like, hee hee. It's just like, we can do whatever we want. Which we want to go do a show from an outhouse at Cowboys during Stampede, we can do it. It doesn't matter. There's a freedom. And it's not just like the show. It's like, you want to put out a t-shirt with Rhett's face? Let's do it. Cool. You want to do a live event? Let's go. You want to record the tape from, the Super Bowl? Let's do it. Like, and it's not a shot at the old place, but it's so big. Something as simple as like a trip or a t-shirt could take months and months and months and months to get approved, because they just had to cross so many desks and so many different departments, where it's like, there's no departments here. There's like 4 or 5 of us on this thing that if we're deciding that, we're going to go give Rhett, ski gear and put him on a chairlift on his cell phone and do the show from wherever, like, we could do it. We can do anything. There's a freedom about it. It's almost like when you're trying to get it off the ground, it's almost overwhelming because there's nothing you can't do. We need to start with something specific and then we can grow it, because it's all too much. But we're in bed with really good partners in terms of who we're working with. They're going to take care of the back end and social media and the studio, and we're just going to be content guys and try to be not boring, which I think we're good at. It's like the ultimate creative opportunity. Sure. You get a life, you've led a life to this moment with all these different experiences. I'm sure you've seen the t-shirt idea. You've seen these like ideas. Handcuffs were on because it was a big operation. Now is it just like cataloging all these ideas and just being somewhat strategic, and when you're going to let them loose, or is it just I feel like we just needed to get the show off the ground, which we did. Like, we started the first day of the NHL season, and it was like, that was our dress rehearsal, and the camera's mics were taking our audio, not these mics, and it sounded like we were recording in a bathtub for 20 minutes, and we're like, fuck, what are we doing here? Day one. Did you know? We figured it out. We took a break and figured it out. But did you know you needed these, or we had these? It was just that the default on the computer was set to the camera, not the microphone. Anyway, little tech error day one. But so it's like, okay, we got to get the show to a spot where we sell it. We've got good clients. We're taking care of them. They're happy. The content's good. We're in a flow of how things go, what works, what doesn't. Because there are some changes. We can't play music, copyright stuff. Whereas the radio station you always could, because you have an FM partner upstairs that had the catalog of music. So whatever, you play whatever song you want. Like, that's a big difference. A lot of the audio elements we'd use aren't really available to us. So you got to figure out your way in this new digital space. It's a different show length. How many guests do we want? And with 3 of us in 90 minutes, there's not a lot of room for guests. Like, we used to do 3-4 hours. Like, I was on 6 till 10, 5 days a week. So it's 4 hours of content a day. But we're also not doing commercial breaks. So you don't have these little resets. And so you're just trying to figure out this new space. Now we've launched our second show, which is called Afterburner. School night Flames games. We do a post game. So Sunday night through Thursday night. Essentially, we want something that you can, if we had a show, but the Flames play that night, if you're driving in at work, do you really want to hear the show before the Flames game? You could, but you'd rather hear us talking about the game, not what we think may or may not happen during said game. Right? And so, if we're recording this today, it's a Flames game day. I'll go back to the studio at 10 and 11 tonight, and we'll record half an hour on the Flames game. And then when people drive to work tomorrow, it's already downloaded, Spotify, Apple, wherever, YouTube if you want to watch it. And that's sort of the second layer. And Yeah, we're working on some other stuff, the other sort of tentacles of what I think is now a brand, not a show.
Which then it gets very interesting, right?
Yeah.
And do you...
Like, why shouldn't we do live events? We had our own charity fundraiser at Christmas. We raised like 21 grand for a local charity. And it's like, God, you feel so proud of that compared to just reading something at the station. Oh, make sure to do this for the holidays. Yeah. And, you know, that's probably us not getting invested as we should have, but you can't help but get really invested when it's like your little shop comes up with that kind of dough to help people have Christmas. That was really cool. So I guess like the big shop versus going out on your own, like you're invested in all of it, right?
You had my mind rolling.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. This is what my coworkers have to deal with.
No, it was bang, 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 bang. It was the Afterburner show.
Yeah.
So it's a big commitment for you, right? You got a family. Still,
I mean, it's not like I'm not watching the games.
But no, there's 80. You got to go. Do you have to go somewhere and like record and?
Yeah, I'm lucky that the studio's like 8 blocks from my house, but
still though, right? 82 games. From home.
I want to be watching every game as close to live as I can. And, you know, we started it in January, so it's really half a year. Like, we looked at it, I think there's 30 or 31 regular season games.
Does that freak you out at all?
No.
Like the workload, the commitment to do it?
But look, I'm already, like, I should be collecting my thoughts and watching the game.
Yeah.
So really all I'm doing is adding another hour to 90 minutes that those thoughts I've collected for tomorrow's show, I'm just using tonight.
And does it feel better to put in the extra effort to like launch a second show when you know it's kind of your own little thing versus if you were...
I mean, it's just an extension of the main show. It'll be 2 of the 3 of us in theory rather than all 3.
Yep.
And Rhett with the time zone is going to be tough when they're at home or on the West Coast. Like, 8:30 puck drop in LA. That's a 10:30 puck drop Buffalo time, Rhett. So we'll probably start recording at 1 a.m. Eastern. Does that work for you? Oh, it doesn't. Okay, boom, and I'll do this one. But I think that's just part of like, look, we only have so much inventory. We came from a space that had 3-4 hours a morning,
right?
And we're like 90 minutes. Maybe we can get that up to 2 hours. But like, we need more inventory too, right? That's part of the business model.
Inventory for
sales,
advertising.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have commercial breaks, and we want to have our sponsors be kind of like a part of the show.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have a dentist that has a laser that cures snoring. You could stop the show and have a 30-second ad with music in the background, but like, click. So why don't we just say, hey, Rhett, you had a bunch of beers in the Bills game. Like, man, you must have been snoring like a champ last night. Oh, we found some video, and then pull like someone chainsawing a tree down off YouTube, and like, oh, look, it sounded like that, and then slide into a read, and then move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
So when you're integrating your sponsors,
it's more organic.
Yeah, more organically, more testimonially, or just like trying to sew them into the
Could you bring them in?
Fabric of the show. Like you needed space to do that. It's not just like, oh, let's do a longer commercial break. It's like, no, you can't do that 15 times in an hour. And so the inventory helps. And like, we're not done at a main show and an after show. Like, we want to do live events. We want to go places. We want to bring our guys to amazing sports moments. We want to, have gear. We want to do all that stuff. And there's no reason we shouldn't.
And now you can.
Yeah. And we could have before. It's just a lot more red tape, and it was a lot of work on other people's desks.
So it's a good spot right now?
It's great. Yeah, we're lucky, man. We're really lucky.
You said off camera, you're 4 months in?
Yeah, it feels like a decade, and it's like, it's month 4.
So, hockey season starts in whatever, preseason, middle of September?
Yeah.
Ish, and then goes
training camps,
till June.
Too many preseason games, and then puck drop was October 11. I think next year we'll be back on the real schedule. Everything's been moved around for Olympic years and late starts because we stopped late. COVID. It's all pandemic messed up. It's finally, I think, back to normal next year, and I think you're probably looking at like October 6 to 12 puck drop, something like that.
And then whatever, the cup is June.
End of June.
So hockey's like all consuming for
8 months there,
8 months and 82 games.
Yeah.
However many shows you have.
5 days a week.
Just no problem. That's what you signed
up for.
Less than
what we did before. And we're not waking up at 3 and 4 a.m. That's the biggest thing. I wake up with my kids now. Like, I hear my kids' alarm go off and or footprints down there, down the hallway. It's not like wah, wah, wah at 4, which sucks. So that was a big change. And I think the off seasons in hockey and other sports like NBA certainly are almost more interesting than the regular seasons in terms of like big trades, managing the cap. Like you think of the Flames off season they had, like Johnny Gaudreau,
dude,
doesn't sign. Drama, sky's falling. Matthew, I'm not re-signing here. Oh, Americans will never stay here. I will not mention Craig Conroy, who is American and loves Calgary and has lived here forever. But Americans, we can't ever draft Americans. No American will ever live in Calgary. And then is like, this GM screwed. Like they're fucked. The team's gonna be awful. And then it's like, Kachuk gets swapped out. Huberdeau comes in. Mackenzie Weegar comes in. A first as well. Monahan and the first go out. Kadri comes in. You're like, holy shit! Like, dude, like that off season. Like that's not a normal off season, but you could just see that it's like if you like the drama and the stars and contracts, like off seasons are very interesting. So like let's say the Flames play till May something, you still are really busy up until July 1 when free agency starts, and then by July 4, everyone's signed. Yeah. Or it's like that guy wants too much money. Let's see what he wants in September. Make him sit on it. So. I don't know what summers will look like yet, but I think we're pretty keen on 5 shows a week till free agency.
Awesome. It's a shit ton of work.
It's all
yeah.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we did that 52 weeks a year at the shop.
True.
And you got your vacation, and you had a lot more like people around helping in other areas. Yeah. But man, like you want the grind. It's like. Come in at mid-August when there's nothing going on and fill 4 hours. Yeah. And you still have to get up. Yeah. And, it might be Stampede or you're golfing. It's just... 4 a.m. again.
Here we
are.
What
are we talking about today? I don't know. No idea. Oh, the Major League Baseball trade deadline's coming up. No one cares. I know. God damn it.
How much music do we got?
Oh, the Blue Jays good this year? Not really. Oh, fuck. We're screwed. And that would be when everyone would take their vacation. So you're not even working with your partner. It'd be like we'd alternate weeks all summer, basically. Like,
gross.
So it's like guys that were producing or, the bench roster gets to start in the summer. So
you're good.
Yeah. We're good at content. We're not good at cameras and mics.
That's good. Play to your strengths.
Yeah.
This has been really cool, man.
Thank you.
I end the show with one question.
Okay.
When I say Calgary, where's your head go?
Ooh, I've seen you ask people this question. I'm like, how the fuck am I going to answer that? I don't like that. I don't know where my head goes. I just think.
Do you want me to help you?
Let me start somewhere and then I'll lean on you. When I think of this city, I'm just really proud of what this city offers people. There's not a lot of places in the world where if you work hard, you're going to have a good life. There's a lot of cities that are a huge grind and that like just to make it feels like summiting Everest and never mind, being able to travel to the mountains, not have an hour-long commute. It gets cold, but you still need your sunglasses, put on a layer and stop moaning about it. Like, I just think this is the standard of living city in Canada. It doesn't take $2 million to get a knockover bungalow on the outskirts of the city like all the other big cities. It's super cosmopolitan for its size. You have direct flights to a lot of very nice places that aren't cold in January. And I love the people here. It's a very welcoming place because a lot of people aren't from here. And I think if you are from Montreal or Houston or wherever, you can get, I don't want to say assimilated, that's wrong, but like you can find a friendship group and it's not icy and like, well, you're not from here. Like, no, I'm really proud of this city. I mean, none are perfect and it's not as sexy and cosmopolitan as others, but like those places you can't drive to the mountains in 50 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, I'm proud of the city. I love the city.
So you had the answer. You
got any other hints?
No, man. I thought you were gonna have nothing. I was like fuck, I'm gonna have to drag this guy across the finish line here.
No, I don't know. Like
dude, it's perfect.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't be happier to be in the city I grew up in, surrounded by, the people I love, be it family, old friends. Yep. Like I got married. Kids are 5 years ago. And it was like half of my 6-year-old hockey team, at least, was at the wedding. So it's like, cool. Those are the best pals. Yeah, dude. Right? Yep. The Calgary boys.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, and best of luck, continued success on this. I think this is an incredible way to shed light on the huge number of interesting people in the city.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have a lot. And it's been fascinating. Like, who am I? I'm a nobody, right? But all of a sudden to be able to talk to these interesting characters and just, it's such
I just like the breadth of it. Like, it isn't, and today's guy had the same industry as last week's guy. Like, it's everything.
Yeah.
Like, are you a foodie? Are you, are you an academic? Are you a sports fan? Are you, are you into architecture? Like, I just feel like it's cool to be able to draw on all these different people.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's been, it's a cool experience. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me.